Okay, picture this. For literally billions of years, Shackleton Crater at the moon's south pole has been completely, utterly silent. Well, that silence, it's about to be broken in a big way. We're going to dive into this absolutely wild plan to build humanity's first real foothold on the moon. And get this, they're not going to launch some pre-built base. Nope, they're going to recycle a rocket.
And let's be clear, this is no walk in the park. The moon, it's one of the harshest places you can possibly imagine. I mean, surviving there, it forces you to throw out the old playbook entirely, because the old ways, they just don't stand a chance. The stakes are, well, astronomically high.
So what's the big idea? How do you solve a problem this impossible? Well, instead of your typical upright moon base, the plan is something else. It's a high-stakes, almost unbelievable maneuver. They're going to intentionally tip over a massive 50-meter tall Starship and just lay it on its side. I know, it sounds completely nuts, right? But stick with me, because it's actually genius.
So here's what we're going to cover. First up, why this fortress in the dark is the perfect spot. Then we'll get into the blueprint for this recycled rocket idea. After that, the main event, the Great Lunar Tip-Over. From there, we'll see how they turn a fuel tank into a home, and finally, how this whole base starts living off the lunar land.
All right, Section 1, a fortress in the dark. You know how they say in real estate, location, location, location? Well, it's a million times more true on the moon. Picking Shackleton Crater wasn't a random choice. Oh no. It's a strategic masterstroke that basically solves some of the biggest survival problems right out of the gate.
So what's so special about the South Pole? Well, it's got this incredible triple threat of advantages that makes everything else possible. First, you've got what are called peaks of eternal light. Think about that. Mountaintops on the crater's edge that are almost always in sunlight. That means constant 24/7 solar power. No freezing through a 2-week-long lunar night. Second, down in the crater floor, you have the exact opposite. Permanent shadows that act like giant cosmic freezers. And what's in there? Water ice. Tons of it. That's not just water. That's your oxygen, your rocket fuel. It's a gold mine. And finally, you have a pretty much constant direct line of sight to Earth. That's your digital umbilical cord. Unbroken communication. It's the perfect spot.
Okay, now for the recycled rocket blueprint. So we've got the where, now let's talk about the what. This whole plan hinges on a truly revolutionary idea, a concept called the wet workshop. It's brilliant in its simplicity. It's all about turning a fuel tank into a fortress.
So, what in the world is a wet workshop? Well, the idea has actually been floating around since the days of Apollo, but now it's getting supercharged. The concept is genius. Instead of packing a pre-built house and launching it, you just use the rocket itself. You land it, drain the leftover fuel, and then you take those enormous empty fuel tanks and you turn them into your living space. You're literally recycling the ship you just flew in on. And when you put the two approaches side by side, you really see why this is such a game changer. I mean, traditionally, you'd launch these small, cramped, and super expensive modules, and then you'd have to do this complex assembly in orbit. It's tough. The Starship Wet Workshop? Nah. You get one launch that delivers a massive, ready-to-be-renovated shell. It takes what would just be space junk and turns it into a palace, slashing the cost for every square foot of living space. Okay, so how massive are we talking here? Get ready for this number. Once it's all converted, you're looking at 2,500 cubic meters of pressurized living space. To give you an idea of what that feels like, you could basically build a 2-story, 5-bedroom house inside of it. We are talking about a scale that is just completely mind-bogglingly new for a space habitat.
And if the house comparison isn't enough, try this one on for size. That's almost 3 times the entire volume of the International Space Station, the ISS, the one that took dozens of launches and over a decade to build. This delivers triple the space in one single shot. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete paradigm shift. It totally rewrites the rules for living and working off-planet.
All right, buckle up. We're at the Great Lunar Tip-Over. This is easily the most dramatic, most nail-biting part of the whole mission. So, the big question: how on Earth, or on the moon, do you safely lay a 16-story building on its side? Well, this is no clumsy fall. It's a carefully choreographed, robotic ballet. So Phase 1 is all about prep work. Before anything starts tipping, a team of autonomous robots, they're called Marocas, gets to work. They're like the robotic stagehands. They roll out the solar arrays, set up radiators, and most importantly, they drain any leftover fuel into these external bladders. All of this is designed to lower the ship's center of gravity, making it nice and stable before the big move.
And then it's showtime. Phase 2, the horizontal inversion. It happens in these incredible steps. First, robots literally bolt the ship's base to the lunar bedrock, making an anchor hinge. Next, they take the ship's own elevator cables and rig them up into a giant pulley system. Then, for the oh my gosh moment, they retract 2 of the landing legs, which deliberately unbalances the whole thing. But it's a controlled fall. That pulley system kicks in, slowly, carefully lowering the 50-meter hull down, 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 until, at the very end, a huge scissor lift rises up to provide a soft catch, guiding it gently onto these specially prepared mounds of moon dust.
Now you might be wondering, how does a giant, thin metal can not just crumple under its own weight? Well, here's the secret sauce. The whole time it's being lowered, the inside of the ship is kept pressurized to about half of Earth's atmosphere. That internal pressure pushes outwards, acting like a pneumatic skeleton. It's what gives the hull the strength it needs to avoid buckling. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of engineering. And just like that, the robotic ballet is over and the stage is set for the humans to arrive.
Okay, from fuel tank to habitat, the human touch. So the Starship is safely on its side. The moon dust settles, and Phase 3 begins. This is when the first human crew shows up, and their job is to turn this empty metal tube into an actual home.
And they are on a tight schedule. We're talking a specialized crew of 4, and they're expected to get the whole interior outfitted in just 30 days. Think about it. They arrive to find this perfectly sound, already pressurized shell, just waiting to be turned into a living space.
So what's the first thing they do? They install floors, dividing that long tube into a 3-level habitat. Level 1, which is at the very bottom, that becomes the industrial zone. That's where you stick all the loud life support stuff, the batteries, the water recycling. Then you've got Level 2, the middle and widest section. That's your main concourse, the kitchen, social areas, big science labs. And finally, up on Level 3, you get the private quarters, dorms, and quiet zones for the crew to unwind. But, okay, floors and walls are one thing, but how do you stay safe? The next big job is lining the interior with multi-layer insulation and, this is the really important part, layers of hydrogen-rich polyethylene. This special plastic is an amazing shield against the lethal radiation that's constantly bombarding the moon. This is the step that officially turns a fuel tank into a safe haven.
And that brings us to the final phase, living off the lunar land. Because, let's face it, this can't just be a campsite. The whole point is to build a base that can actually support itself to slowly but surely cut the cord with Earth.
So while the humans are busy setting up shop inside, those robots get back to work outside. Their first job? Bury the whole habitat. They cover the Starship in a thick blanket of lunar soil, regolith. It's the perfect natural insulation and an extra layer of radiation shielding. At the same time, robotic mining fleets head out to those dark craters to harvest that precious water ice. I mean, that ice is everything. It gets turned into drinking water, breathable oxygen, and even rocket fuel. With all that in place, power, water, air, they can finally set up hydroponic and aeroponic farms inside to start growing their own food. They can install corridors to other modules and even an observation deck. The base is literally putting down roots.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the Starship stops being just a vehicle. It becomes permanent infrastructure. It's not just the ride to the moon, it is the moon base. It's the cornerstone, the very first building block of what could one day, seriously, become an entire city on the moon.
Look, this whole plan is just a monumental leap forward in becoming a multi-planetary species. It takes something straight out of science fiction and turns it into a real engineering blueprint. Which, of course, leaves us with one last question for you to think about. After seeing all the incredible ingenuity and all the heart-stopping risk, would you be brave enough to live in a recycled fuel tank on the moon?